Sonic 3 was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Though, I'm hearing reports that this movie broke people's fathers. Because, kids deserve good movies and all. Alright, let's hear them out.
When a man becomes a father, he's called upon to make sacrifices for his family. And often these will be small sacrifices. Sometimes they'll be larger, though, more significant.
Where is he leading to?
And on even rarer occasion, the duties of fatherhood will require him to make the kind of sacrifice that, up to that moment, he would have thought himself incapable of making. These are the moments when a man must become a hero, when he must lay his very life on the line. And this may take many forms. Perhaps he's rushing into a burning building to rescue his child from the fire. Perhaps he has to pull his loved one away from the path of a speeding train because they've been tied to the tracks by bandits or whatever. Or most harrowing of all, he may be compelled by his paternal obligations to go to a movie theater and watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Clever. So clever. Okay, so he really made an attempt to hype up how bad this movie was, so I'm sure his points will have plenty of substance.
Now, a man in that situation would, of course, much prefer to be engulfed in flames or hit by a speeding train, but that would be the coward's way out.
Then maybe let's start talking about the movie. Come on, show a little follow-through, Matt.
Now, for the record, I'll say I greatly enjoyed most of the time that I spent with my wife and kids these past 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun together. We played football, we played outside, we shot BB guns, we played card games and board games. I completely wrecked my whole family in Monopoly 2 nights in a row. Wasn't even close.
I'm so happy to hear about that. Awesome. Great for you. Now let's talk about Sonic 3.
I mean, this is the kind of movie where Jim Carrey plays 2 characters. One is the evil villain, and the other is the evil villain's evil grandfather in old age makeup. And the 2 break into an impromptu dance routine that makes no narrative sense but lasts approximately 87 minutes.
It makes no narrative sense that maniacal supervillains dance around when they think they've won. Alright, buddy, we're off to a great start.
It's the kind of movie where those same characters before the dance routine actually look directly into the camera and explain that they're being played by the same actor.
It's not an explanation, it's a joke that works in-universe and on a meta level way too well. What kind of criticism is that? This is what broke you as a father? Well, here's my honest reaction.
I'm not your father. I don't give a fuck about you.
I must assume, and I think assume safely, that there is nothing in the other 2 films that would make this one any less obnoxious or horrifically stupid. Now, I'm not gonna bother explaining the plot of this film in any detail. I wasn't tracking it that closely, to be honest.
You weren't paying attention, and you've just admitted this early on in your review, where you're trying to tell us how bad this movie is and that kids deserve good movies.
Cause hot damn, you wanna know what's a scam? Your fucking education. Nigga, that's what the scam is.
Mostly fighting to stay awake. This is the kind of movie that bores you to the point of putting you to sleep, but also annoys you at the same time. It's kind of an odd combination to be both sleepy and deeply irritated simultaneously.
We need a real argument, Matt. Make a real argument.
As for the plot, I can only tell you that Sonic is the good hedgehog, which you may know. There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves, who, and I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years, he has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act with just your voice. So Sonic has to stop the evil hedgehog and his evil cohorts, that's the Jim Carrey dancing duo I mentioned earlier, from blowing up the world with a big laser. And this has been the evil plan of every evil villain in every blockbuster franchise film for the past 3 decades.
Okay, so you didn't pay attention. Dr. Eggman wasn't planning to destroy the world, he was planning to control the world. He literally argues with Gerald on what the plan should be, and it turns out that Gerald was planning to betray his grandson. They straight up tell you this in the film. Did you watch it?
It's a formula that this movie is not interested in deviating from. This is not the sort of movie that deviates from formulas.
What's the formula? All you mentioned was that one of the villains had a plan to blow up the world, yet instead of standing by that plan, our main villain decides to help the heroes in the end. And if he can't take over the world, he might as well save it. And Shadow doesn't follow up with the plan to destroy the world in the end. It's not just a formulaic destroy the world plot. Shadow has internal conflict because of the grief of losing Maria and his desire for revenge. They spell this out to you, and you didn't pay attention.
If you're wondering why the evil hedgehog and the two Jim Carreys want to explode the world and murder 8 billion people in a cosmic blast that they will also die in, it's because the older Jim Carrey's granddaughter, I think, was killed, and now he wants to commit murder-suicide because life isn't worth living.
What kind of rate is that? First of all, you didn't pay attention to the film. Dr. Eggman doesn't want to destroy the world. He wants to take over the world. Gerald wants to destroy the world. And stop trying to argue that the plan is bad because it's suicidal, because we're talking about Gerald and Shadow, who are suicidal in the movie, largely because of Maria's death. Gerald and Shadow want their final act to avenge Maria. How do you miss the point of that so badly? Oh, it's because you fell asleep and didn't pay attention.
Like, that's real. That's in the movie. He actually declares his suicidal intention as well.
So you know the character is suicidal in canon, and you're still complaining. It's not just that you barely paid attention, but you also heard the character explain it, and somehow still think it's an issue. Showing illiteracy, Matt Walsh? If you paid attention, I wouldn't have to trash on your review.
Now, if that seems like weirdly bleak and dark for a kids' movie where the characters bust out impromptu dance routines and randomly break the fourth wall and constantly speak in internet lingo from 2019, there's a lot of that, by the way. Just as one example, at one point, Jim Carrey says, "Damn you, autocorrect."
Autocorrect jokes still exist today because autocorrect mistakes are still made today. People have made this joke before 2019 because it existed years ago.
If it seems weirdly bleak and dark for that kind of movie, it's because it is.
It's almost like a movie can have lighter and darker elements, and it's a matter of how you balance them.
This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest, and so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances.
Give me some examples that you didn't fall asleep on while watching the movie. Oh, he doesn't have any because this review is shallow and has nothing of substance to say.
The writing is just terrible, and the performances are atrocious across the board. Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie studio knows it has to hit. Because this movie, again, like so many kids' movies these days, is not the fulfillment of anyone's creative vision. It is just the product of a corporate algorithm.
This is just bad faith. You're telling me no decision in this movie was creatively driven and rather a product of some unspecified algorithm you've decided was the driving force?
It is loud and ugly and obnoxious and disjointed because nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film.
I think the lack of care is actually present in this review because you rarely give examples, and when you do give examples, you ask why suicidal characters do suicidal things.
Good job.
And they have absolutely no respect for their audience.
You don't have respect for your audience because you gave them this crap review.
I mean, this movie could have been made by AI. We are at a point. If they start making movies with AI, we would not know the difference because they've effectively been doing that for 20 years now.
Goodbye, sir. I will not even dignify that argument with a response.
Now, you might respond here, as many people on Twitter did after I gave a very brief review of this film in a tweet on the site a few days ago. You might respond that, well, this movie isn't for me. It's for kids.
Personally, I wouldn't respond this way. I would just point out the fact that you didn't pay attention and failed to give working examples for your points. So I'll just skip the counter to this. Oh wait, that's the end of the video. That's all he had to say about the movie. Let's just keep track of all of the arguments he made for why this is a bad movie. He says it made no sense for maniacal villains to dance around when they think they've won. He said he doesn't like a fourth wall joke that makes sense in-universe and on a meta level. He was falling asleep as if that should make us inclined to believe what he says. He says that the acting is bad because it's bad, and there's no examples he referenced. He forgot that Dr. Eggman didn't want to destroy the world and complained about suicidal characters committing to a plan that could kill them. He said the film was just following a formula of villain plans. that 2 of them don't even follow. He said the film couldn't have lighter and darker elements throughout. He said nobody cared about making the movie without proof, and that covers the gist of it. He made no good points, and he didn't even explain some of his major complaints. Nothing of substance was said in this review. You know, this review might be a pain for your brains to process, but if someone really hated this movie, but couldn't even give one good reason for why it's even flawed, I don't know, it sounds like the movie is really hard to criticize. But hey, I'm a believer in second chances. If Matt Walsh wants to have a conversation on one of our Disagreement Day streams, he's more than welcome to have something scheduled. Maybe he'll have better points against this movie. Maybe he'll convince the world that it's bad. Though if that day comes...
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Wee wee hong hong, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.